Welcome back. The Police Minister Bheki Cele says they've now identified 12 persons of interest in connection with the recent spate of attacks on trucks. The Minister outlining the police's plans to deal with the attacks. He says they are not random. Cele was speaking at a media briefing earlier today. Dr. Jakkie Cilliers is the head of the African Futures and Innovation at the Institute for Security Studies. Dr. Cilliers, good evening to you and thank you for your time. These attacks on trucks are really an attack on our economy. How important is it for the police to get on top of this and to get on top of this soon?
I think it's hugely important, Stephen. We have seen repeated remarks ranging from under the radar throughout, to the extent to which organized criminals are, in a sense, holding the state to ransom, while the rule of law, adherence to the rule of law is perhaps not what it should be. And it does seem, as the Minister indicated, that this is organized criminal activity that is aimed to shift, obviously, the use of one contractor to another one, or from one type of transport to another. So very important, the N3 is a lifeline for the South African economy.
We have a sabotage on the railways at the moment, and we know the impact that that's had. We now have this. I mean, there's only so much an economy can stand, but it also suggests almost that crime, whether it be organized or not, almost has our economy by the throat.
Yes, and unfortunately the responses to these are often to deal with the symptoms of the problem and not to try and fix the issues that lie behind this. From a policing perspective, what this requires is investment in detective services, what some call intelligence, but is really just good detective work on the ground. And that will resolve this. But what we tend to do is we tend to think that visible policing is going to resolve this. Visible policing may provide a bit of a deterrent, but we have to get our hands on the organized criminals that are behind this. And the Minister has indicated that he has a list of 12 people of interest. Let's hope that that is true and that they can be apprehended. But this has to stop.
There's so much speculation about who's responsible, what's responsible. It seems to me obvious that whoever's doing this is organized, and I say that because we've had it before, it stopped, suddenly it starts again in 3 different provinces.
It is no doubt that it is organized crime, Stephen. I think the work that the Institute for Security Studies have done over decades, I can almost say, points to the fact that organized crime in South Africa is conducted by a very small grouping of criminals, and that if our security agencies can get on top of that, they can deal with murder, they can deal with this type of rampant crime. But it requires a different approach. It requires an approach that invests in, as I've said, detective services, fixing forensics, fixing the firearms registration system, but most important of all, are fixing the management within the police. And then, of course, making sure that persons that are eventually apprehended, that there is a system, whether that is through the NPA or whatever, that ensures that people are brought to book. At the moment, something like 15% of murders in South Africa, only 15%, are in actual fact lead to successful prosecutions. That is a dismal percentage. And it points to the problems in the pipeline that we have in the criminal justice pipeline.
It also suggests that, unfortunately, violent crime is winning. I mean, that's a very scary thing. This is likely to have huge consequences for our economy, and then confidence in people's faith, or sort of the confidence that people have in whether or not their government can protect them. To put it another way, government is failing to protect us and our economy and truck drivers.
Well, murder in South Africa, which is the best indicator of crime, is was last 20 years ago, was at the same levels that it is now. And South Africa simply has to get on top from a criminal justice perspective in dealing with these issues, because the underlying challenges, unemployment, poverty, and inequality, that takes a growing economy, and that's not going to be resolved rapidly. And in the meanwhile, while we wait for the load shedding to end and getting the economy going again, we need to fix the criminal justice system, and that really has to start. Not only start, but it really is about fixing the police, and that is about fixing police management and the approach to policing, where we stop trying to put boots on the ground and untrained, I will almost use the word constables in Gauteng, and deal with the fundamental issue of getting behind evidence that can stand in court and that is based on good detective work.
Dr. Jakkie Cilliers, thank you, Head of the African Futures and Innovation Program at the Institute for Security Studies.